Welcome to the Growth Over Grades podcast, where we talk about education ideas and topics that matter most to our Spaces EDU educator community. I'm your host, Melody McAllister, educator advocate for Spaces EDU, your solution for digital documentation and assessment of student learning for all. At the beginning of each episode, I like to feature an amazing member in our community. And today, as we record the Growth Over Grades Season 1 finale, I want to thank each guest who has come on this season. Dean Gainey, Dr. Sarah Thomas, Todd Schulz, Natalie Vardabasso, Stephanie Morgan Harris, Dr. Mary Alice Curran, Huhenia Tamez, Allison Curry, Claire Romzik, Tim Cavey, Tom Schimmer, Jed Dearyberry, Jamila Fort, Barbara Bray, Nicole Biscotti, Katie McNamara, Dr. Alec Kuros, Adam McKelkey, Dr. Randall Sampson, and Michelle Jones. You all have taught me so much about building community, creating assessment that matters to our students, and striving for purpose in education. I want to thank each person who has listened to an episode and shared it as well. I want to thank my Spaces EDU family, Julia, Eric, Sierra, Daphne, and Jordan. Without you all, I would not be doing this podcast, and your support means everything to me. But now it's time to meet today's panel of guests. We are here to share about our ISTELive23 experiences. Each guest today is someone I think of as a close friend who has not only impacted my life as an educator, but each person here is constantly creating ripples of change, putting in the work and changing education on a larger scale. Dr. Sarah Thomas, Dr. Henry Turner, Tara Desiderio, Dr. Michael Harvey, Sean Arnold, Hedrick Nichols, and a shout out to Bonnie and Rochelle that were supposed to be here, and Dr. John Wick. I want to thank you all for being here. And as you introduce yourself, can you please let us know how many times you've been to ISTE?
Yeah, I guess I'm starting. My name is Sean Arnold, New York City Public Schools for like 18 plus years. I have been to 7 ISTEs, including like the 2 virtual ones.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm so glad you're here. All right. Next person, Tara.
Hi, I'm Tara Desiderio. I am an elementary principal in Pennsylvania, and this was my 3rd time at ISTE.
Awesome. And Dr. Sarah Thomas.
Hi, everyone. Sarah here. I'm from the DC area. Pleasure to be back here on the show and to be among so many amazing folks. Let me see. For ISTE, I would say 7.5. I went face-to-face 7 times, and I went last year. There's a story behind that half, but last year was virtual. But there's a story behind the half. I'll leave that for later.
Okay, I hope so. All right, Dr. Henry Turner.
Hi there, Henry Turner, principal up here in Massachusetts. I'm a high school principal, and I think this is my 5th or 6th ISTE over the last 10 years, off and on. And this was a very fun one. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Dr. Michael Harvey.
Yes, Atamarie from the sunny Te Waipunamu, Aotearoa, New Zealand, where I'm a physics teacher, actually head of department at Marlborough Boys College. And this is my 4th ISTE, so 3 face-to-face and 1 online.
Awesome. And I want to give a shout out to everybody who's watching. Heather and Melissa, thank you so much for joining us live. All right, Hedrick.
Hi, everybody. I am Hedrick Nichols, author, educator, edtech specialist, and CEO of Small Bites, its own podcast and consulting firm. I have been to 2 ISTEs, and I'm the neophyte here. And I've been a long lover of #not at ISTE.
I like that. I'm glad you said that. We'll talk about that too. All right, Dr. John Wick.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. John Wick. I am an elementary and middle school principal in Southern California. And after hearing how many ISTEs all of you have been to, I'm feeling a little old here. This is my 14th ISTE.
Wow. Dang, that's so cool. I was going to say, did you want to say anything else? Because I was going to say something. I don't want to interrupt you.
No, you're totally fine.
Okay. Well, I've been to 6 ISTEs, I think, or 7. No, this was my 6th. So, and this kind of, when you guys were talking, is there an ISTE in the past that has stood out to you, and why? Sorry, I didn't prep you for this one.
I guess I'll jump in. My favorite, and this is for selfish reasons, but my favorite was 2017. That was like a highlight of my professional career, where I got to like kind of kick it off and do the Ignite on the big stage that opened up the conference, and that was so much fun. And I randomly said the phrase PLF, and then next thing you know, my Twitter mentions blew up, and it was such an unexpected surprise and joy. But yeah, that was my favorite year.
Cool. That was my first, actually, 2017. Oh, wow.
2018 was interesting for me. I was presenting several things, and I had gotten an award from ISTE for a thing, but I also got to do like my TED Talk thing there and meet a whole bunch of new people that I'd never met before from around the country. So that one was like a deeply personal and like just sort of like mind-blowing experience year for me. Plus, I got to go back to Chicago, which is my hometown. So that was really cool.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you were from Chicago. That's really cool.
For me, it was 2018 where I did Ignite. That was really the fuel behind what ended up being my book. So it sort of was memorable to me because I was extremely nervous about telling a very vulnerable story, and now is a story that I tell several times a week. So it's definitely memorable for that reason.
Yeah.
I'll go for 2017 for me, San Antonio. First time at ISTE, and also getting to meet people face to face that I've been in contact online with for many years.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny because when I went in 2017, I didn't know any of you, but just being at ISTE was such a privilege, and I was so grateful for my district to send me. And then when it was last in Philadelphia, I just met Sarah in person, and although I was friends with all of you, almost probably all of you, I hadn't met you guys in person for a couple more years. So it's great. I love this. A couple of people are chiming in, and I want to give a shout out to Anna, because she's actually in Russia, and I met her first time face to face this ISTE. So I'm so glad you're joining in. And of course, Stormy Daniels, I'm so glad that you are here, and thank you for joining us as well. So it's great to see you all. As we think about ISTE, I want to know, what were some of your favorite takeaways? What was something that you think everybody should know about, especially like Hedrick said, hashtag not at ISTE?
I think for me this year, the affinity groups had such prominent spaces. First of all, the Sunday panel with Center for Educational Reform. Do I have it right? Those kinds of experiences on a mainstream stage at a mainstream tech conference. That's not what I'm used to, and it was a healing kind of a moment. And then to see a lot of techies, because tech is still a place where Blacks and Browns are very much underrepresented, and so to see everybody kind of gravitating to the space, making connections, and again, to have ISTE really push those conversations into the spotlight, not like there's a little corner over here where there's some diversity stuff. If you really having that stuff center stage. Yeah. Shout out to the organizers. Definitely.
Yeah, that is very powerful. I love that. Does anybody else want to talk about that or an ISTE takeaway?
I mean, I was going to say that the affinity groups was definitely something I want to see continuing and expanding a whole bunch. For those not familiar, those are like for API groups, Black educators, queer educators, all these specific groups where people could go ahead and find their spaces when they often feel so isolated in their own teaching communities. But for me, one of the big takeaways that something I was focusing on this year was I really wanted to try to amplify other people that hadn't gotten to do ISTE stuff before and bring them into sessions with me and get to do stuff. Because, again, I've been to a few of these. And so, like, all these people who've never gotten to experience, who've never gotten to present, I loved it. It felt so good to, like, here's a really cool person I know. I'll share some stuff, but, like, listen to them. They got some really cool stuff. And that for me, doing that stuff together, like amplifying those other folks that I know are awesome, that was great for me this year.
Yeah, that is really cool. You and congratulations to you and Stormy. Also, she's watching for making the must follow list, the 30 must follow list. I'm going to drop that just now, but Stormy's watching too. And if you are watching and I didn't say your name, let me know. Congratulations to everybody. And I'm going to drop that. Awesome.
Yeah.
For me, just about the importance of those connections and also being able to support people that you've actually been in contact with online, and then you can support them face to face and kind of big them up so they can also drive forward educational change. That was kind of my big takeaway of what I really enjoy in ISTE. Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm. And I got to meet you for the first time, so that was really cool. I mean, face to face. Yeah.
Oh, I do have a little kind of significant but big takeaway that I didn't mention before. A lot of times we are in this professional space and we're professional, we're teachers, we're authors, we're all these great things, but we're also human, we're family people. And one of my rock star friends had a baby since a couple of years. And I actually got to I met her there at registration, and I was allowed a peek into the stroller where I could actually make eye contact with the most beautiful little girl. And I don't want to mention who it was because I don't know if she's, putting that in her professional space, but that was just a beautiful, I can mention it. Yeah. It was Sarah. I got to see Sarah's face. That was exciting.
Yes, thank you so much. Like, that was a magical moment for me at ISTE, definitely bumping into you, because I mean, we've been connected for so long. And not only that, we have you've been there throughout some of my highs and my lows in my journey. And oh my gosh, just meeting Hedrick for one, and seeing I saw almost all of you at ISTE. And that was magical. But I have to say also that meeting Hedrick for the first time was that was definitely a game changer for me. And in addition to that, I wanted to say, just kind of piggybacking on what some of you have shared in terms of amplification, representation. My ISTE takeaway was the Our Voice Amplified series that was on the main stage on Monday afternoon, I want to say. And that was just amazing. I've been involved with Our Voice Alliance as a board member, and just seeing this come to life and people sharing their stories, their journeys, I was just like, whoa. So it was just amazing.
Was there one story that you think about even more than the others?
I can't pick one. That's like picking your favorite kid.
I could do that. Ask me any day. I could pick a favorite kid.
I can pick a favorite kid. I only have one, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's easier for those of us who only have the one kid, Sarah.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But no, everybody did such an amazing job.
That is really cool. Does anybody else want to talk about their takeaway?
I just wanted to jump in and kind of echo what everyone was saying. Obviously, the networking that happened during that, seeing everybody in person. Honestly, I went to so many amazing sessions and listened to some of my friends do their best work and get to see them in person doing those things and promoting the amazing things they're doing and books they've written, and being there with our Future Ready team. It was the first time I'd seen Sarah in person again since years ago when we were at a Future Ready Summit together, and I bumped into her and met her for the first time there. And then we've done online work together since then, but actually being in person, it was so great just to be in person, being with people in kind of more normal circumstances, and getting to hear and see what everybody's doing and promoting, and being able to take that back to our organizations and actually start brainstorming how to implement. So that was great.
Yeah, and something that really stuck out to me was just that, last year it was still everybody had their cards, for their shots or whatever. And then this year it does feel like you said, Tara, it feels like normal. And it's not necessarily normal for everybody, but it just felt like things are kind of falling back into place, which is comforting for me anyway. Before I move on, I don't want to take away from anybody. If you have a takeaway that you want to share, did everybody? Yeah.
That's it. Can I just say one?
Yeah. You
go ahead. I was going to say that I thought that that this year, because of, I think, sort of the hard years that educators have had, was just so much more real in terms of the experience that educators are experiencing. And so a lot of the topics that were being presented on the main stage were, it wasn't doom and gloom, but there was a lot of sort of real conversations. And I think the affinity groups were a real important piece as well to help people feel connected that didn't exist. But I think in conferences pre-pandemic, sometimes there would be this gloss that sometimes felt a little shiny. And I think that this felt really like a very real experience of what educators are experiencing. And that felt really good about this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, +1 to the honesty and mindfulness stuff.
Then I just want to go ahead and share and, going kind of echoing what Sean said, really, this is the first time I've been at ISTE where I felt like for many years, it feels like it's back in a way where it's organic. There's energy. People are looking at, there were so many things, whether you were looking at artificial intelligence or things about, elevating people of color. It was the first time in a long time that it wasn't like, here's all the very super professional, polished presenters that have it like lockstep. But I felt like I was there and I could just be myself. I felt like I could talk. And then, meeting with people that, it was great. Running into Sarah, I was like dancing. She remembers. But, the whole thing is just meeting with people that I've known for years and then connecting with people. I had like 5 people come up to me and say, this is my first ISTE ever. What do I do? Where do I go? How does this work? And I'm just like, you know what? Hang out with me. Here's what you want to do. Here's where you want to go. And let's figure it out. But, and then just seeing the light in their eyes light up because they're like, I want to go to the next one, or I want to do the next thing. And so for me, my big takeaway, again, networking, community, and then just being with people who want to make change happen. I think this year, really, all of you are, a prime example of that, but so many more that were at ISTE also. Like these are the game changers. They're the ones making a difference. And I felt like finally it's back and in a way that is meaningful.
I just want to build on that. When we're talking about this year being as meaningful as moving forward on things that we've heard that happened over the pandemic, and now people really have real concrete takeaways on how they've built on those things. I heard a lot of people talking about like the digital divide and talking about equity and in all of that, and how what we did about it, and now what we're doing to make sure that that does not ever happen again, and how we're making sure that kids have access no matter where they are. So that was something that was near and dear to our future ready hearts, and that I just seeing it being implemented in so many different sessions, that just like warmed my heart to know that so many people are still keeping it at the forefront of what they're doing and not just in our organizations.
Yeah. And, something that was really awesome for me is, I go to these conferences a lot, and conferences can kind of meld into one another, but ISTE always excites me more than the others. And this time, and ISTE actually is where I step out of my comfort zone the most. And I got to present with Rochelle Dene Poth, and that was probably my favorite one. And we planned a session on podcasting and stuff, and it was pure chaos, and it was amazing. And, we did it in a different way, and I just learned so much that, like, kind of how I am in the classroom. Adult people, we like to learn, we like to talk with our friends, we like to like just do. We don't need to be instructed about every single little thing. And so that was probably my most favorite part of like the sessions. And I do want to say, Melissa, I'm so glad you're here with us. She says sessions were amazing, but the people who are fam are the best. And I got to spend a lot of time with Melissa. I'm so glad you were there and that you're here too. And that is definitely always the biggest and the best part of ISTE. Before we move on and talk about like improvements, is there any last thing that you guys want to share about the takeaways? All right, moving on. Okay, so we love ISTE. That's why we go. All of us have been there more than once, but could there be improvements, and what do you think they are? And I'd love to hear if you're watching as well.
I got one. I would love to see, like John said, a lot of newbies come and there's the overwhelm is real. And so I would love to see maybe a page where people share their schedules. A lot of people go into the app and build out a schedule. And so maybe, here are 3 second grade teachers. This is what that schedule looks like. Here are some middle school social studies teachers, and this is what that looks like. So that there are really somewhere that you can go to kind of like not just look at all of the things, but you see this is what a good sample of what I'm doing, of where I could go to. I can't talk today. I don't know. Yeah, you get what I'm pointing. A sample of learning experiences by teachers who've done it all.
On top of that, I think adding like notes in, like especially because those first couple times are so overwhelming that you don't even you don't know what you don't know, and there's so many takeaways that you walk away and you think, oh gosh, what session was that in, and what did they say, and what was that link, and what. So to have something that to reference that some maybe more experienced people have taken notes on different things, maybe sharing those kind of things might be great.
And there are lots of people who do it after the fact, and you can find it. I think Matt Miller has one. A couple of people I've seen them, but if we could have something like that already in the app, that would be awesome.
Like a track, like a newbie track just for first timers. And the session that I just talked about with Rochelle, when we did, almost everybody was at their first time being there, and hardly anybody knew each other. And that was the coolest thing, was that they all knew each other at the end. I was like, okay, you didn't know each other when you sat down, but now you all are going to dinner together tonight. And I've been to ISTE by myself like most times, and just making friends was it's pretty easy for me to make friends, but not everybody feels that way. And so I think that's a great idea. What else do y'all think could be improved upon?
Well, I've just written a blog post, and one of the parts of that blog post is listening to other teachers' voices. And I guess I'm going to be slightly controversial. And I know John's here with the artificial intelligence, so I'll make a little comment of what I saw around artificial intelligence based on the thoughts of Amanda Macias. So I'll just directly quote her from my blog post, so don't stuff it up. So I think for the conference spotlighted areas that require urgent attention. The buzz around artificial intelligence felt superficial and often remained confined to marketing spiels, while voices from outside the US and equity-focused sessions were disappointingly underrepresented. So there was little things on the side, like Ed3 DAO, Web 3.0, which were really interesting, but they were kind of marginalized. They weren't front and center. So I think that's something that previous speakers have discussed about the equity sessions, and I think that's some area where ISTE could further improve. There we go.
I'll sort of even echo that one, because there's a thing where there'll be a lot of sessions that seem like, oh, look at this shiny new toy kind of stuff. All the 60 apps in 60 minutes kind of goof sessions, and oh, AI is awesome, let's look at it. That don't dive into all the equity issues surrounding AI, that don't dive into, the inclusivity pieces and how artificial intelligence is based on data that is corrupted and all those sorts of pieces as well. And so, granted, some of those sessions existed, but it seemed like they weren't highlighted, and they were stuck in back corner rooms and spaces, and often this other hotel space that was hard to get to and all that kind of stuff. And so, again, I don't know that was done in a meaningful capacity, because there were certain spaces that had more room for deep dives and stuff like that. But I think there could have been ways that those more meaningful sessions could have been more easily highlighted, right? But I will say, as a thing to improve on that note, we were talking about the affinity groups earlier, those can be expanded on. Those can become more. Those can take active protocols. And to that same end, the sort of creativity space that I think was kind of new this year, where they had tons of student examples and student work things and stuff that people had created throughout the conference. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that throughout the entire conference center. That kind of stuff is awesome, because it shows what's happening and what people are learning and what it's really about.
I love that you said that, Sean, and I want to give a shout out to Andrea Cook, who was my partner at the Spaces EDU booth, and just a wonderful friend to have. And one of the things that we were talking about after the whole thing was, do we sometimes forget that it's about students? And I love that she said that, because it does get lost, because we see our friends and we're presenting, and there's kind of there's wonderful things, but we tend to forget that our focus should be on students. I'm guilty of that. I just want to say. So I love that you said that. And I think there should definitely be more, how do we take this back to the classroom and more of a focus? I'm glad you said that. Melissa, who's watching.
I will say some of my happiest moments. I was just going to say, there were these two groups of big student groups from one was from Australia. There was another one from England and stuff. And they're all in cute school uniforms that look like something out of Mary Poppins. And they were out there selling their session, come and visit us. They were the most excited about the work they were doing, because it was their work. They were the students that those were the not missed sessions for me.
Yeah, I love that. I'm so glad you shared that.
So I just wanted to pick up on the AI, because I was going to say the same exact thing, but I want to frame it more as a warning. Is that I think that the first few ISTEs that I went to was right when social media was starting to blow up, and there was a lot of promotion in the education space for educators to buy in to social media, and it didn't seem like there was a lot of checking going on. And just thinking about how quickly Threads has boomed in the last week, that like we are in a very different place now in terms of how quickly things are moving, and that ChatGPT is 10 times smarter than it was 8 months ago. So like to think that this is going to be moving very, very quickly, and that I think we have to get this right in terms of what are the questions, instead of just promoting that what are AI solutions, but actually asking questions now and trying to slow down our conversations, even though the tech is moving fast. And I think ISTE needs to do a very clear job on that going into next year.
For sure. And we need to keep each other accountable for that too, because, and we talked about this at ISTE in several circles where, we cannot just depend on the AI to give us all the right answers. There is some false information in there. And so we do need to be educated more. And like you said, Doc, like it's in the last 8 months, our minds were blown in November, and now it's just like, what? So for sure. I want to also give a shout out to Melissa. She says that she would love to see some grade level or subject area highlights, or even rooms for grade levels to shares happening. And I think that's a great idea. I'm glad you shared that, Melissa. Thank you.
It would be neat, like grade level meetups, affinity groups, regional affinity groups. Yeah.
Yes. And Sean, I dropped your blog. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's about?
I've shared stuff in there about some of my biggest takeaways from ISTE. Some of the things that I thought could have been shifted, like the campfire sessions was a new thing they kind of did this year, but they scheduled it really terribly. But I will say that to that point we said earlier about mindfulness, one of the best sessions I participated in with a group of people we were presenting was a sort of mindfulness session. We didn't want to do it, honestly, at that point. We were not in a good mindful space. And I'll go in and I'll do a session and I'll be like, oh, this is great. But then I'm exhausted at the end. But I walked into this exhausted and burnt. And we came out of it like invigorated and energized, because we went through these. And it was a real and raw conversation happening with the people that were in that room. And it was like the one where people came up to me afterwards, like at other days of the conference, was like, thank you for the space. And it was just... I would love to have more of that in those spaces, those really open and honest spaces. But the way they scheduled it was not good.
Wow. All right. Moving along. Does anybody else have, before we move on? If there's those improvements, I want to say I would just wish it were cheaper.
Well, yeah, from my perspective, it's really expensive.
Yeah, it's costly to get there, and then and for you, some people more than others. Michael, you're coming from another continent, for crying out loud, and I might as well be. Just kidding. But yeah, and then and we want teachers to be there. We want teachers to be innovative, teachers to get good ideas, to learn from their PLN. So that's always my beef. Or make it more easily accessible, for just teachers, everyday teachers to go. So that's my beef.
I did have another thing. All of the great hotels, the downtown hotels in these larger cities, are now in an age where they are no longer really nice hotels. They're not the luxury hotels that they used to be. And I think that sometimes the price and value is no longer what it once was. I resent having to pay, over $200 for a hotel room where the ceiling is peeling off and those kinds of things. And that's happened a couple of times in larger cities lately. So I'm not sure what the solution would be to that, but that's a big one.
For sure. And we're in education, so don't charge us, like whatever. But anyway, I'll get away from that. Heather says, I preferred having the posters and playgrounds together, like in New Orleans. Thank you for sharing, Heather.
I just wanted to build off of that, Melody, and what everyone's saying here, because the cost, that has always been the biggest thing for me, is trying to figure out how to get there, how to stay. It's super expensive. And if we're looking at a way to get more people there and make it, let's face it, the people that are going there, unless the district is paying for them or they have wealth, it's an equity issue of who can even attend this. And that's a big deal. So if there were a way that ISTE could put together a way for educators, like even for where you're going to stay, like, hey, here's a list of, like, join this group. we're looking for 4 people that want to stay somewhere and they meet up and they do it. At least they'd be saving money on that. Just the lodging alone is astronomical. I think it's even, by the time I'm done, I'm paying more for lodging than for my airfare and for ISTE combined. And then when you look at it too, this is a minor one, but it bugged me because I was fortunate enough to have people I was staying with at an Airbnb. But the problem was, I'm like, okay, well, how do I get there? This is going to be a lot in Lyfts and Ubers and things like that. Yes, there was a bus schedule, but ISTE could have easily put out a map that showed where the bus routes were, because I wanted to find out which bus route went closest to my place so that I wasn't going to spend, $20, $30 going back and forth every day. So just little things like that I think can make it more accessible to people. And, I don't know how else we're going to bring the cost down, but it's necessary.
For sure. And Anna totally agrees with you.
To piggyback on what John was saying, I know they have things that are like where people can volunteer, or they can, they have scholarships for but that's just registration stuff, right? And granted, they can expand that, but I would love to see, like he was describing, if they could create a collective app or a space where, again, like you were saying, people there for the first time by themselves, not with all their peers and stuff, because that's kind of the deal. Is like we feel like a voice in the wilderness sometimes, and we're looking for peers, but we don't have anybody to stay with at an Airbnb. If we could find 2 or 3 people who, would be safe and, are in similar health situations as us, that might be willing to stay or travel with or carpool or whatever it might be, like that would be a huge deal in cutting down those travel and housing costs too, I think.
Yeah, I think the Airbnb is a good solution. I definitely went that route. I will say though that the bathroom situation was like there's always cons to everything. So the cost was down. I do not like sharing bathrooms, so it is what it is. It's a beast. A couple of people are chiming in. Melissa says it is expensive, and unfortunately, in my district, they send our technology specialists, but grade level teachers don't get that same advantage, which is sad. I agree. And I think if you have some rock star teachers on your campus, you should be sending them to ISTE. They will definitely grow in that experience. Thank you, Marilyn, for joining us. She says cost is definitely a factor. I would double up with other participants. A hub would be great for lodging, for sure. And Stormy says, I save all year to attend by choice. And I know several educators who go every year on their own dime. Thankful Denver is closer to me. So thank you for chiming in. Any other ways before we talk about some more lighthearted things that you feel like ISTE could improve? And ISTE, are you listening? All right. Okay. So now I hope this doesn't turn anybody into enemies here, but and I want everyone to chime in, whether you're, sitting right here with me or you're tuning in. What was the best event that you went to for ISTE? And we live for these events. I know what I'm going to say, but I'd like to hear what y'all say first.
I just grabbed some. Go ahead.
Yeah, so EdTech karaoke. Thanks to a dear from Melissa Hayes, I got to wear my pink tutu, so I really enjoyed it. There you go.
I just grabbed something off my shelf because at the same time as that was the EdTech Poetry Slam, which honestly I'd never been to one of those before. And it gets raw and it gets real and it's hilarious too. But people are like honest and telling like intense stuff. And I walked away with this thing here, like which is
yes, I heard you out Brian Romero Smith for the belt. Congratulations, up high.
So that was my cool moment that I got to. I ran it afterwards to like the Rocky Steps in Philadelphia and like held it up. It was like yeah. So yeah, that was fun for me.
That is really good. Sean, did you just did you plan that, or did you just, when you were on that poetry slam, did it just come out right then and there?
No, there's one portion that's a spoken word piece, and then the second portion is all freestyle. Yeah, so it's off the cuff, and they have, speaking of AI, these AI generated slide decks that you have to basically go in line with as you're telling your poem, your story, and has to match up with that on some random topic. So yeah, that's a challenge, but did that.
I saw some footage of that. You did good.
Alphabet aerobics, if anybody knows like Blackalicious' alphabet aerobics. It was like that, but with EdTech.
Anyway. All right. Well, I got to agree with Melissa. The EduMatch and the Tech and Educator Alexander event for me was absolutely the best. Yes, it was so well put together. It was the first night. I got to say, I wanted to go to the poetry slam the second night, but I was just too tired. But this was planned at the perfect night. Karaoke is my favorite thing in the whole world. I got to see Hedrick. Hedrick and I, we karaoke together. I sang with a Grammy-nominated award singer, yes, and I got to hear Dr. Sarah Thomas sing. Of course, it's not my first time with her, but always great. But yeah, that's me. Want to hear more about the best events?
I mean,
Thank you.
I can just double that. That was my event as well. Go on.
Thank y'all so much for the love. Thank y'all so much for coming. Oh my gosh. It was like y'all made the event seriously. So, thank you to everybody for being there. There wouldn't have been an event without so many amazing people who were there. So thank y'all so much.
And I got to shout out to Educator Alexandra, because I love that the swag, the little lunchbox swag bag. It is the perfect size. I literally I've had it on every trip since ISTE. It's my bag.
Mm-hmm. I want to say, Melissa keeps bringing it back to the people, and I love that about her, because I know that she actually lives this out. It's true. So I love that you're saying this, Melissa, and every event that we get to spend with our friends is wonderful. But I want to ask you, what makes a good ISTE event or any conference event? What are you guys looking for to make it, for it to be something special? And not just
I think the people
free bar.
I was only there for a short period of time, but at the karaoke, that there was this phenomenal karaoke singer who had an amazing getup on, and he ended up at my session the next day. And I thought he was like this professional speaker. And I remember seeing Tara looking in the corner of my eye as I was presenting, and her eyes just opened up that this person showed up in the session. It was actually a pretty funny moment of ISTE.
What was the outfit?
What was the song? Yeah, what was the song
I don't even know what song he was singing, but it was like he was just a character. I mean, he was fully in, and there was some drunk guy that was like on before him who was terrible. And this guy came on and like stole the show. So it was just like amazing. It felt like Tom Brady had walked into my session in some ways.
Tara, do you remember what the person sang?
I don't remember. It was country, but I don't remember what it was. But it was amazing. And I did laugh. As soon as I saw him, I noticed my eyes. I felt my eyes get big, because I was like, that guy, we were out with him last night. But I think that, to Melissa's point, like, it is about the people. Like, it didn't matter which event we were at. And that is something that I don't think, as a new person going to the conference, that you necessarily know, that like the events at night are like some of the best networking you do. Just meeting new people and putting faces with names and doing all those things. And everybody who's there is there for that purpose. If you're out and you're there, like, you're there to meet people, and you're there to talk about like who you are and what you do, and kind of learn from each other. So to Melissa's point, like, it is the people. So like every place that we went, we were out at many different events that night, and it was all amazing. Like, there wasn't one that I could say like trumped another, that it was about the people that we were with at every time. So I think that is it. This event specifically it's about the people, and whether it's over lunch or whether it's at night and out at karaoke, like, it's amazing.
Yeah, and one of my favorite nights was hanging out with you, Tara.
I know, me too.
And Henry, you too. It was fun. It was great networking.
No, just saying, in New Zealand we have is what's the most important thing in the world? It is te tangata, te tangata, te tangata, the people, the people, the people. So I think that's definitely what makes the events.
Mm-hmm. And meeting new people. And when you meet them through your friends, then you know that they're a little, you know what I mean? Like, you can meet teachers. Listen, people, they could be crazy people out there. Just because we're all teachers doesn't mean you're not crazy. So it is cool to meet people through the friends that you already trust. Was there anybody that you finally met? Like, I finally met Michael in person, face to face, this one. I think I've met everybody else before that. Was there anybody that you want to give a shout out to? You finally met them face to face, and it was amazing.
I've never met Hedrick in person.
Henry and Sarah, both of those I've met for the first time. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, agreed.
That's awesome.
Sarah, we may have met in person, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to point at everybody because I think I got a chance to see everybody except for Dr. Mike. So sorry
Yeah,
to have
I
missed
did
you.
pass by
But
you, unfortunately. Just man.
yeah. But definitely, and we've met before. So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we absolutely have. So, but yeah, this was a great time.
Yeah.
I think
I got to hug Tara, which is always amazing.
I know some of my best friends from that I talk to every day from across the country. I think that's part of it is that, even over COVID, we spent so much time and space in other people's space online that even last year in New Orleans, to actually get there and be with people and be able to hug them and be like, oh my gosh, you're real. I always fall into that space where I'm like, my friend. And people are like, what are you talking about, your friends? And I'm like, they really are. Literally, I spend so much time networking with these people that I value. I value so deeply, more than people that I see, locally all the time. That I actually had literal tears. I remember walking in to the vendor floor and seeing a few people, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're here. I just need to hug you. I said it to Sarah too. I'm like, I really am going to hug you. That's okay. I'm going to hug you. And I hugged her really tight. But yeah, so
that was amazing.
Being, just
there
being
wasn't a little. I don't know if anybody saw. If anybody's a Banana baseball fan.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, so there was a kind of sort of event because I was hanging out. I always go hang out at Melody's Spaces EDU booth and just kind of hang out and hug her, and between people stopped, just kind of hang out. And next to her booth, the dancing ump was there.
Vincent Chapman.
I was fangirling. Oh my God, it's so bad. So I have a picture with him kissing me right here and me kissing him right there.
It was awesome. I did my first TikTok dance with him and a few other people. Yes. Yeah. Was it Desmond and Andrea
Jillian, right?
and no, it wasn't Jillian. It was Kristen Nan. It was so fun. And actually I've stayed in touch with Vincent since we've left, and he is we're now BFFs. So if you want to get the dancing up, let me know. I have his agent's number. It's pretty fun. That is so cool. Anybody else before we talk about something a little bit more serious?
I guess for me, Melissa Hayes. So we've known each other for about 5 years on Twitter. We kind of behave like brother and sister on Twitter, teasing each other. And now I've actually shared a B&B with her for 5 days. So that kind of continued.
So and you're still friends.
Still friends, yes.
Yeah,
I love that.
For me, the one person that I got to meet finally in person, and it's kind of interesting. It didn't happen until there was the great exodus at the airport and that whole fiasco of being trapped there for half a day and whatnot. I finally got to meet Melissa Adkins, who I've been friends with forever on social media and talking and doing the Google Innovator stuff and all that. And just the ability to actually, both of us trapped, we ended up making friends with people at the local airport bar, and we called ourselves the Breakfast Club, and now we're still in contact with all of those people. So it was just kind of neat to even when you're not seeking it out, to realize you're still there with your people and you can still have fun.
For sure. I saw Jamie Donnelly and Celie Clark at the airport when I first got there. Oh, that's another story. Anyway, and I just want to give a shout out to Dr. Dave Schmitto. We missed you this year, Dave, but I'm glad you're tuning in. And Melissa says, yay, our Breakfast Club was totally awesome. I love that so much. It's so cool. All right. So we went to this big event. We talked about the best takeaways, the things that we want to improve on, the wonderful event. But what excites you about this coming year? What are you going to take from ISTE or really any summer learning and go into this next year with? Can't wait to hear what you guys say.
I guess the session which I had with Wakelet around Web 3.0 was very interesting about the potential provocations that artificial intelligence in Web 3.0 are going to make to education. So Stephen Reed from Microsoft and Minecraft basically said, let's just sit back and see what happens, because I'm kind of intrigued and excited about those changes and how they will change education.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give a shout out to two of my very good friends who are actually here with us today, Hedrick and Henry. Talking to Hedrick and I have been talking for years now about changing the narrative and talking about how we need to get out there and doing different things and making sure that we know who we are. Yep, and who we are talking about. I've got mine here too. But talking about like what we're doing and who our audience is, and making sure that all means all is one thing. I got to introduce Zandra to Henry while we were there, but Zandra always stands on the platform of all means all, and I always use that in our organization, and just make sure that all of our students are being represented in everything we do, and having accountability partners who really are going to hold me like accountable for what I'm doing and push my thinking. There are two people that did that for me again at this conference, and in reading all of their books, it's just amazing. So that is one thing that I can say for sure that I'm taking into my year with me.
Oh, I love that so much. And I'm so glad I had their books right here next to me, like it was planned or something. I am actually really, really looking forward to teaching a podcasting and publishing class this year. And I love that I have this amazing resource. So, and I suggest if this is something that you want to do, whether it's a personal thing or with your students, grab this book by Dr. Sarah Thomas. What else, guys? Oh, somebody.
I want to say, for me, what I'm most excited about is it just feels like, there's so much change that's happening so fast, and the technology is expanding at such rate, whether it's AI or any other type of technology that's out there. Even the tools that we normally use are getting features that we've never seen before. And for me, I'm one of those that I was there when computers first came into the classroom. I died of dysentery on the Oregon Trail. I remember when there was one in the library, and you had to get time to use it. And it feels like, back then we had no idea what was coming and where it would go. But here we are today. And whereas, when I first started teaching many years ago, and I was looking at this as, well, we'll figure this out in the next 5 years or the next thing. It's almost like Moore's Law with how fast this stuff is going now. Right now, when I'm looking at it, it's like, I don't even know what 6 months from now is going to look like. So I'm excited. I'm invigorated to actually just jump in and say, all right, I've advocated for years that we need to use the tools of today to prepare the kids for tomorrow. But the tools of today are changing so fast, we can't keep using the stuff that's from the 1990s and beyond, because there's a lot of us still doing that. And we got to prepare these kids, because there's no other way we can do it unless we're using what is out there now. And we're the ones that have to kind of jump in, feet first and figure it out.
Yeah.
I just want to echo really quickly that Shannon Miller just put out her book. That's another thing I got there. Sonia's Digital Divide, Digital World. Sorry, Sonia's Digital World, and she's one of our future ready librarians, and she does such an amazing job putting things out there. And this just reminded me that being a part of a school and making sure our kids are ready for all of this. So it's not only that we need to be ready for all of this, it's that we need to prepare our kids to be ready for all of the things that they have access to at their fingertips. So they are exploring and learning faster, way faster than we are, but we need to make sure they're doing it in the right way, because their little brains aren't developed enough to know how to use it appropriately. They can use it, but are they doing it the right way? So how do we start when they're really little? Like, how do we start with our kindergarten, first grade, second graders, like that they actually know with what they're using, that they're doing it in the right way. And the fact that Shannon wrote this book and like put it out there and kind of just reminds us to start when our kids are really little, to make sure they're using things appropriately so that they can use them to the best of their ability as they get older.
I love that. Can you hold that book up?
Sure.
All right, there we go. Yes, go ahead.
I'll
Thank
say
you
one
for
of the
sharing
things.
I was just going to add in to say that the reality is that science fiction is now science fact, and that we can't predict how the technology transformation is going to impact us from a society. But one thing is going to be true is that we're going to need each other, and so helping our students to develop the skills of the heart are more critical now. And as a high school person, is that often we say like, that's not my job to teach kids to care, and that is the work, that is the job, and that's what is going to help our society and help our kids for their future.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
Go ahead,
Similarly,
Sean.
one of my big takeaways wasn't even from the sessions, it's from a lot of the conversations that were happening, that like, in addition to recognizing the massive influx of new technologies and everything, it's also recognizing the reality of other situations, of political situations, of societal situations, and all those other things that are driving teachers insane and are driving students' hearts wild in places and spaces where, you know, they can't talk about their own identities or they can't talk about their true histories. And that as we're being real about all the technology that's happening too, we have to be real about who all of us are and who our students are and who, you know, what we are pushing back against in these spaces and the reality that we're all facing. And so that was a like wake up call, like every day in the midst of all these things too, that there was cool and shiny and awesome, but like, look at the world around us, you know, as this is also the hottest summer on record. And that's another thing we're having to deal with, and all the climate change that's forging ahead. And how are we going to solve these challenges? So it doesn't have to end with doom and gloom either. It's like, what are the things we want to put on our students' place to try to look for solutions to the issues that are hitting us all?
Yeah, I love that. And just to build on what y'all said, especially what Tara said and with the book that she was showing, you know, if you don't know where to start, if you're listening, something that I've got to present with Victoria Thompson for the last 2 years, and then this year with Dr. Eileen Winokur, and this year also with Dr. Alexander, we talked about just starting with the ISTE for students standards. That's a great way to start. Like if you're not sure how to prepare your kids for all of this, that's where you start. They have standards for teachers, they have standards for admin and coaches, but the standards that we talked about for students are amazing. They're very equitable, and you might not get through every single standard throughout the year. You don't have to teach it like that. But just getting started in that would be a great place for your students and for them to feel empowered and for you to feel empowered as well as a teacher. So I'm glad that y'all said that. Yeah.
Melody,
And,
this book, Sarah, Shannon did write this book in collaboration with ISTE, so it does reflect ISTE standards. So
awesome. I will definitely put that in the show notes for sure. And Melissa says, hitting up all my amazing fam to do mystery Zooms so these guests can share their knowledge of AI, SEL, equity, and equality. And she means that, y'all. I need to do it. I haven't done it yet. I will, Melissa, this year. This year it's my turn. Melissa Adkins says, I have my middle school and principal support to be proactive about teachers and students using AI for good and the classroom. Again, AI is so important. So we have to really know what we're doing in that area. Stormy says, once again, always need to circle back to what about the students. And I love that you said that, Stormy, because that's what it's all about. You know, how we improve our craft so that we can teach our students. And like you were saying, Dr. Henry, just, you know, what we teach, the hard work, it's not just the curriculum, it's the character building as well. Really quick, you guys have been amazing. We're about to hit an hour. I want to respect your time. Is there any sort of wisdom that's on your mind? It can be about ISTE, it can be about anything, but I always like to close the show with just imparting of wisdom. And we have shared a lot today, but is there anything that you still want to say while you have the mic?
Okay, well, my students hate me for it, but I really love proverbs and whakatoki, which is like traditional indigenous proverbs. So I'll finish with this one. Ngā te roa roa, ngā te taku roa roa ka ora a te iwi, which means with my food basket and your food basket, the people shall thrive. Here we go.
I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Renaissance man. There you go. Yeah.
That's right. Anybody else? Would you like to share something?
I think for me, just final thought is, as teachers and administrators, and no matter what we're doing in education, we've survived one of the hardest, couple of years in modern history for teaching. And even before that, teaching wasn't necessarily respected as much as it needed to be. Just hold the line. If you're a teacher, if you're an educator, you serve an important role. And the only way that the world is going to change for the positive is because you show up every day, you face, the parents and the politicians and everyone, but you're there for the kids. You're there because you want them to do better. And just, it's hard. And when it gets hard, remember, there's a huge community of us out here. Lean on us, reach out. We're all here for each other, and we need to make that change happen.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to say the same thing. Like, find your tribe and love them hard. Like, find people who build you up, because this job is way too hard to do by yourself. So finding the people who can build you up and make you better, like that is just going to take you so far. So no matter what space that's in, just find your people and just really keep running with them, and it'll be great.
I was just going to say that, like, the road ahead very much seems impossible in this space and place at times, but I think the only way we survive and the only way we succeed is together.
I love that. The only way we survive and succeed is together. That's a great way. That's just something good to end on. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, whether you were here with me or tuning in. We had such a great response, and I really appreciate it. This has been such a wonderful season for the Growth Over Grades podcast, and we'll be getting in another month, our season 2, and some of you are going to be my guests again or on it for the first time. And I've loved collaborating with you guys. I love watching all of you grow and making those ripples, like I said earlier. I know the good work that you're doing, and it is such an honor to sit here today with you and talk. We have one comment coming in, but thank you all so very much. Yes. And congratulations to all the people who made that top 30 list. We got so many in our community. You guys are amazing, and it was well deserved. So, all right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you again soon.
Hurry that.